According to what Chang himself said,
that same night he was visited by his late master, who scolded him severely for publicly revealing knowledge that, according to their tradition, should never have been shown in that way. After that, Chang disappeared from public life.
our sound engineer Simi was skeptical at first. This man says that what he does is no more supernatural than what an electric eel does, and that he knows how to harness his yin and yang energies. Yin-yang, positive and negative. You know, my positive part from here and my negative part from there, and when they meet, something similar to electricity can happen. And is this because you're special? Do you have some kind of special medicine? Is it meditation? Is it meditation? I meditate every day. Can you project this energy only through your hands or also through other things? Only with my hands. Look, you can touch me like this. It's nothing. Don't worry. And if I do it, now you can feel it. Just like that. I've always been struck by the fact that practically all ancient traditions talk about something very similar, about the force, an energy, a vital principle that exists within the human being. In India, they call it prana. In Japan, ki, and in China, qi. And the story of the man you just saw is precisely about this idea.
His name is Chang.
And beyond the amazing demonstrations you just saw, what's truly interesting is the system in which he was trained.
An ancient system known as Neidan, or Taoist internal alchemy, whose purpose is to cultivate, refine, and direct the body's energy.
So, for centuries, this knowledge was reserved for a few initiates
and transmitted from master to disciple and practically inaccessible to most people. And this is very similar to Hermetic knowledge. That's why
images like the ones we just saw are so unusual, since these practices were rarely shown publicly. But beyond how extraordinary what he's doing here is, the question is, why is this knowledge hidden? And what's behind all this? And where does this energy come from? And what could we do with it if we learn to perceive and direct it? Now, what we just saw is a team that set out to go to Indonesia after hearing rumors about this healer with amazing abilities. And this was in the early 1980s. And their only goal was to record for the first time the abilities of Chang.
This Mopai master who claimed to generate real bioelectricity from his own body.
I invited a small group of scientists from the United States with measuring equipment to test if this was real, and if so, in which part of the electromagnetic spectrum this energy could be located. Sometime later, the team returned. But this time, they weren't alone. They came with a group of scientists who wanted to study Chang up close.
And again, they were able to see the demonstrations and analyze him with different devices. And according to what was revealed,
they didn't find a single clear explanation for what they were seeing, but they also didn't find any evidence that it was some kind of fraud. And this is where the story gets even stranger. Because after those recordings, according to what Chang himself said,
that same night, he was visited by his late master, who scolded him severely for publicly revealing knowledge that, according to their tradition,
should never have been shown in that way. After that, Chang disappeared from public life. There were no more interviews, no demonstrations, no cameras, and his story was practically buried until very recently. Because Mel Gibson, the famous actor and director behind movies like The Passion of the Christ, put Chang's name back on the table. During an episode on Joe Rogan's famous podcast, I used to have a Qigong master. And this is what blows my mind about medicine and about ancient things, because he would come and could point at you from a distance, and you would feel it. But you felt it as something so tangible, like someone was pushing you, and you felt it. Yeah, right? Like that. And I'm not joking. So, what stands out to me the most about what Mel says is that he wasn't describing a vague feeling or a mystical experience, but it was something completely physical, something direct. Because he talks about feeling a real force, invisible, yes, but feeling it directly in his body, while Chang was pointing at him from a certain distance. But what he said next gets even crazier, so listen to this. One time, he was working on me, and he was working on my liver. He told me, "Your liver is blocked," because he looks at you, and if you look at him, he looks away, and his wife distracts you while he examines you, and then he shows you a little map of the body and marks an X in different places, and you say, "Yes, it's true. It hurts here, and I have something here," and he knows where everything is. One day he was with me, pressing on my back, and I could feel my back against the wall. He hit me and started yelling at my liver. And I went up the wall, and there were about 20 centimeters of air under my heels, and I was stuck to the wall. He lifted me off the ground. Then I came down, and I got really scared. And there are others like him. He's not the only one. He learned it from someone else, and I think he passed that knowledge on. Now for me, the most interesting part about John Chang isn't the newspaper he sets on fire, or that he lights up LEDs, or the electric shocks, but it's the answer he gave when he was asked if he was special, and he just replied, "No, I meditate, I train." Because that idea appears over and over again in the traditions we've studied on this channel. Human beings normally live with their attention completely scattered. Thought after thought, reaction after reaction, emotion after emotion, and we go through life responding automatically to the outside world. And these traditions proposed exactly the opposite. To gather our attention, turn it inward, and learn to direct it. And turn something that normally happens automatically into something conscious. And although this is not the typical meditation practice, nor a simple energy treatment, because we're talking about a lineage that has been kept secret for thousands of years, passed down from master to disciple in a very selective way. And just so you get an idea, it's said that Mopai consists of 72 levels of training, and most practitioners never manage to get past the initial levels. It was said that Chang himself had reached level 37, and look at what he was capable of doing. The training involves intensive meditation, breathing techniques, and something known as embryonic breathing, through which you learn to circulate energy through specific channels in the body. At the most advanced levels, it is said that practitioners can manipulate bioelectricity, heal other people, and even influence physical matter. So what Mel Gibson described in his experiences with his teacher, that intense heat and that energy touching his body and lifting him up and healing his body, is exactly what a Mopai master is said to be capable of doing. And only a few people throughout history have managed to reach that level. And something curious is that Mel Gibson was so impacted by what he had experienced that he had to go to his priest, an old man who was very wise in his words. And this is what he shared on the podcast. Listen carefully. "I was so scared that I went to see a priest. And I told him, this guy is demonic or something like that, because he lifted me up against the wall." And the priest, who was an old Jesuit, a traditional man,
and he was like a mix between Jimmy Stewart and Elmer Fudd, the one from the cartoons. That's how he sounded. And I asked him, "Tell me, is there something demonic about this man?" And he said to me, "Let's see, wait.
Tell me, did he heal me by doing that?"
And I told him, "Yes, he did." Then he replied, "Well, then it's fine." He told me, "I don't have any problem with something like that." Because it was within the realm of possibilities that a person could have a power like that, and that it's something unexplainable, but it works, and it worked.
So it's interesting to see how Chang didn't show these abilities to gain fame or fortune. In fact, it's said that he was very selective about the people he worked with because he knew that these powers came with great responsibility. So, the question isn't whether these abilities are possible for humans, because the evidence is pretty clear here.
The question is, are we ready to seriously study these abilities?
Maybe that's why ancient traditions were so careful with this knowledge. Because the goal was never to do tricks or to impress someone or to gain powers. Maybe the real work is mastering yourself. John Chang spent decades training something that most of us can barely maintain for a few minutes: his attention, his breathing, his internal state.
And practically all the great traditions end up leading us to the same place, which is inward.
Because before trying to direct any energy, you would have to learn to direct your attention. Before trying to transform your reality, you would have to learn not to be swept away by it. And before trying to master anything outside yourself, you would have to start by knowing and mastering yourself. And for me, John Chang raises a much more interesting question than any demonstration. And that is, how much of human potential is still dormant, simply because we've never learned to train it? And maybe the only way to answer that question is not by believing or denying, but by experiencing, observing, and meditating. And discovering for ourselves how far a truly trained mind can go. And when you stop living by automatically reacting to the outside world and start looking inward, maybe you'll start to discover that there's something much greater within you than you ever imagined.